All right. Hello. Today we'll be presenting on consumer protection, and I'm Matthew. I'm presenting with Abby and Jasmine. So just going over the basic consumer protection laws. So consumers have five key rights, and which is to safety, to be informed, to choose, to be heard, and to privacy. With consumer protection laws ensuring that consumers are treated fairly, receive adequate information, protected against potential hazards, have free choices, and have legal recourse when problems arise. And today we'll be going over Red Bull's $13 million lawsuit, which they were accused of making false and misleading advertising claims with their famous slogan. So going over the basic company profile of Red Bull, it's an Austrian energy drink created in 1987. It boasts the highest market share of any energy drink in the world, selling 7.5 billion cans as of 2019. And the main topic of the lawsuit is their slogan, Red Bull gives you wings. So going over the Red Bull lawsuit in 2014, the lawsuit stated the person suing Red Bull stated that such deceptive conduct and practices means that Red Bull's advertising and marketing is not just puffery, but it instead deceptive and fraudulent and therefore actionable. And that's what led him to sue the company for deceptive advertising. In order to settle this quickly, Red Bull decided to just pay for the lawsuit and offered $10 to every person who said they were misled by the advertising. And they had a link on their website where people could sign up. But with Red Bull having a lot of consumers, that means a lot of people were trying to get their $10 out of Red Bull. And so they decided to cap it at $13 million. And that's where they ended up paying. However, they do go on to say that they believe that their marketing is not has been truthful and authentic, and they believe that the person suing Red Bull was just unsatisfied with the product itself. So a brief answer and business rec we can give to Red Bull to address the lawsuit is to state that the slogan is puffery, which is basically an exaggeration and purely for marketing as opposed to it being the superior energy drink. And this raises the ethical question of whether or not our company should make advertising claims of unrealistic abilities about our product. And so three key facts that we can look into is what is deceptive advertising? And as our reading describes, deceptive advertising occurs if a reasonable consumer would be misled to the advertising claim, with puffery being a vague generalization and obvious exaggeration, which Red Bull gives you wings obviously is. Now, going over the slogan Red Bull gives you wings, many consumers perceived it as Red Bull advertising itself as a superior energy drink, and that's why it charges a premium price in comparison to other energy drinks. But when we look at the caffeine breakdown with Red Bull compared to other energy drinks, as well as other methods of getting a lot of caffeine, such as a cup of coffee, we can see that Red Bull is has less caffeine in comparison to other ones, although having more fluid ounces per can. And this brings up the issue is Red Bull's campaign gives you wings false advertising. And today we'll be going over three key stakeholders, which is customers, who are the primary people purchasing the products and are directly affected and misled by the false advertisements. The business, Red Bull itself, because with bad public perception with the lawsuit, it can deter future sales. And society as a whole, because that determines where the line between puffery and deceptive and false advertising lies.
So next we're going to be analyzing the issue at hand. So for utility, we focused on the three stakeholders, business, customers, and society. For business, there's a lot of benefits, like this campaign kind of created a lot of buzz and created a lot of really cool kind of content that Red Bull was able to use. So the benefits were obviously an increase in sales, a clear company message, and outshining its competitors by being creative. However, obviously, the burdens were bad press and lawsuits that came with this idea of premium product. for customers, they gained fun media content, as I just said, as well as it was a benefit to the business because customers had a lot of brand recognition for Red Bull. The burdens, a little bit more drastic, they misled customers because, as Matthew talked about, Red Bull had a lot less caffeine than like a standard cup of coffee. And it could have led to a decline in sales from customers. And lastly, society, the benefits to society are a little bit gray here, but the burdens are really clear. It incites possible injury. So people actually thought it gave you wings. They could like jump off a building. Obviously, people probably wouldn't do that, but and then it misinforms the consumer of the benefits of the product. So by claiming it's a premium product, that could be deceptive to some consumers, deceptive advertising. So rights and duties. The business has a right to market their product in order to outshine competitors. That's obviously a really big part of business. Consumers, they have the right to safety and be informed. Those are 2 of the 5 that were listed earlier. And then society has a right to true advertising and overall well-being. So that was kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of like what the idea of deceptive advertising is, because the Fair Trade Commission is able to regulate that. So they do, like, society as a whole has a right to true advertising. Justice. So when looking back at the benefits and burdens, you have to ask the question, is the distribution of benefits and burdens equal in this case? And from my point of view, when looking at these across the board for all the stakeholders, it seems unequal, but mainly unequal because there's a morally relative like difference in opinion. So even though it's unequal in justice, it still warrants like a discussion versus a set decision of right or wrong. And that's kind of where moral relativism comes in, excuse me. So next we have care, and this is where you ask the question, does the action care for or nurture the most significant relationships? And at a first glance, not particularly. You have to look at the 2 like primary stakeholders, which are customer and society. And the decision to continue marketing as a superior product, it doesn't, like, especially if it's not, which it clearly there's some gray area there as well, but it doesn't seem to us that it's a superior product. And so it does not really care for consumer relationships between the business and the customer. So in that case, it would be no. And then as far as society's expectations, because there's, again, this kind of gray area, it doesn't seem to be like really taking into account the relationships it has in society. So again, I would say it does not care for the relationship there either. Next is organizational. And it was a little bit challenging to find some of the mission of Red Bull, but from what I could gather, their 3 main pillars were people, ideas, and culture. And they giving wings to people and ideas is like their slogan. So I also looked into their company culture because they had identified that as one of their 3 main kind of pillars. And from what I could find, it seemed like their employees thought their culture was energetic and very results driven. And I would say in this case, the idea of giving wings to people, or Red Bull gives you wings, would align with the organizational values just because they're about like people, creativity, innovation, those kind of words that kind of accompany that slogan. Like, gives you wings, when you think of that in like a outside perspective, aside from Red Bull, when someone has wings, it means they're able to soar, they're able to be creative, they're able to like really explore themselves. And so in this case, I would say their organizational values definitely align with that kind of idea. So ethical is the analysis here. And lastly, personal. So I applied virtue ethic to this situation because that's kind of how I personally view the world, as like being transparent, being respectful, being honest. And so with this specific case, Red Bull kind of needs to be a little bit more honest and transparent. They obviously, like, the gives you wings is a little bit ambiguous. It's not a clear cut like slogan, like for example, Home Depot, like get more done or whatever it is. It's like a little bit less clear. And so I would say it's not very honest and it's not very transparent. And also the whole idea of it being a gray area of deceptive or false also kind of goes against virtue ethic because it has this like unknown ambiguity, excuse me. And so in this specific case, I would say that applying virtue ethics, it would be unethical, what their continual use of this slogan. But that, with that being said, if they were more transparent with it, that could possibly, clear up a little bit more of this like virtue ethic idea. So next we're going to move on to recommendations.
So keeping with this idea of virtue ethics and being transparent and honest, we've recommended different short-term and long-term actions that Red Bull can take to kind of declutter, kind of just get out of the mess that they kind of dug themselves in. So one of the policies that we considered and recommend is to hold focus groups and see firsthand what consumers are thinking, kind of just to see, should they move forward with certain advertising campaigns or should they hold back? So maybe if they did implement this focus group discussion, they would not be in the legal mess that they ended up being in. Another policy that we considered is explicitly spelling out marketing intentions for transparency to be found within reach, so preferably on the website, just so consumers can easily access this information. Because again, we're emphasizing virtue ethics and transparency and honesty by hiding our actual expectations of consumers from the actual consumer really says a lot about us as Red Bull. So kind of having that within reach for the people that we are marketing to is super important to us, especially, with focus group discussions. We are all about the consumers and marketing to them. In terms of long-term support, as Abby mentioned, the Federal Trade Commission is in charge of seeing if things are, or if advertisements are deceptive or not. And by working towards and valuing a close relationship to this group, it could really do a lot for Red Bull. Just having that close partnership, or not even a partnership, just a relationship, can help a lot. Another long-term policy that we can implement is a form of self-regulation within the company. I read in a Business Insider article that some companies are starting to do regulation within the company. So, and even the FTC is hoping and praying that companies are doing this and checking themselves without a third party, just before that gets out, before we have another litigation mess. So that could help a lot by giving this task to the vice president of marketing, or even just the marketing department in general, so this doesn't leak into the wrong parts of the company. In terms of internal and external personnel, we thought about employees and consumers. So with employees, kind of going off of that long-term policy, employees should be subject to regular inspections of deceptive advertising led by the marketing directors and the vice presidents of marketing. So anyone who has any part of making campaigns and advertisements should be checked to see if they are breaking the law and breaking FTC rules. Again, just like emphasizing transparency, virtue ethics, honesty. And then in terms of consumers, they're encouraged to check out transparency statement on the website about the expectations we have for consumers, kind of just what Matthew and Abby were saying. We don't want our consumers to get the wrong idea, and we want to let them know that we know that this is not the superior product, and we know that it's not going to give you wings. And we expect you to also feel the same way. So this is super important to get out to the consumers. So for capital support, Abby had this really great idea about investing in a new advertising campaign that just clarifies that Red Bull doesn't actually give you wings, um, but make it satirical so it actually is something that you want to watch and something that you want to look at. And an example of this was when Taco Bell was saying, "Thank you for suing us." Um, because like companies don't really do this. Companies, again, are not honest and transparent. We want to stick out like how Taco Bell did that. We want to show that we care about our consumers, we care about honesty. So by doing it in sort of a positive light, or satirical light, we are showing that we are showing our cards, basically, that like here we haven't been honest and we're owning up to it, and we want to be honest because we care about our relationship with you. So here's what Red Bull actually did. So they changed Red Bull gives you wings with one eye to Red Bull gives you wings with three eyes, because wings with three eyes is not a valid word in the dictionary. So you can't sue off of a fake word. So Red Bull kind of just skipped over all those policies that we think they should do and kind of went straight for, technically this won't give you wings, but like it'll give you wings with three eyes. So I also thought this was also kind of satirical in itself, but this is just what Red Bull ended up doing instead.
So after this like new advertising campaign, as well as the lawsuit or advertising slogan, I should say, the energy drink landscape changed a little bit. A lot of the other competitors to Red Bull were more cognizant of the repercussions that making false claims about their beverage or like product could ensue. So, for example, I read an article by Wired that discussed how a lot of energy drink companies switched to making a like powdered energy, so that it's more like they don't have to compare themselves to anything like a cup of coffee that the average American drinks every day. But honestly, people still drink Red Bull. Like it still is definitely like a very prominent product in the energy drink landscape. But I guess I would say it seems like people now know, it's not necessarily better than a cup of coffee, and they also are paying a lot more attention to what's in the product itself and how it's being advertised. So for example, I think like with the WIINGS, I did a quick Google search just to see, or excuse me, I did a quick Twitter search just to see what people thought about that. And I found a lot of information that indicated people thought it was clever, but also like kind of resented them a little bit. So it definitely has a mixed sentiment on Twitter, where a lot of the Red Bull consumer is. But as in regards to our recommendations and kind of in a conclusion sense, we do think that the decisions that Red Bull needs to make in the future do need to be more honest and transparent, as well as whether it's ethical or unethical. Obviously, the lawsuit ended with them settling, and Carruthers, who is the person that filed the lawsuit, did initially win, or they settled, so they did get compensation. But whether or not it actually was ethical or unethical, that's a little bit of a gray area still. But I think just based on our analysis, in conclusion, I think we'd say that they did need to change their advertising. And so it was an unethical practice to make false claims. So thank you very much.